Hello, my name is Don Hadley, president of Applied Vision Works, here to talk to you and wanted to just make sure we're clear about something. One of the things we've learned over the years as we've taught these different concepts, principles, ideas, there's a lot of different ways to do things. So instead of there being necessarily one approach to something, what I've tried to do as a leader, what we've tried to do as an organization with our clients is teach not one answer, but have multiple ways of doing this. And so we have a lot of different ways of helping deal with conflict. So what we're going to talk about today is the second conflict resolution model that we use that we like a lot. And part of what I want you to do is to think about, hey, how can I learn and use this to develop myself as a leader, the other people around me? We're trying to do these modules in a way where it's very easy to have others learn it, but you got to go practice it. It's got to become a habit, because without that habit, you're not going to get great at it. I find I've done so much of this so often, it's just ingrained to me, and I naturally flow right into it whenever it's needed, and it doesn't take a lot of thought. Most of this stuff takes a lot of thought to kind of get it going. So I want you to be developing different ways of dealing with things with us, but also actually go practice them. So the FRIC model, which is number 2, FIFA was number 1, is first sharing, here's what I feel. I fear that this project may go poorly because of this and this. I might share that up front. Some people prefer this model over the FIFA, which shares facts first. This sometimes gets someone's attention better, for example. It also sometimes releases pressure. I find people, if you're real intense about something, if they can say, hey, here's how I feel about it, sometimes that just gets them to relax. Now it's clear how I feel, and now we can move forward with the conversation. You then make a request, which is the R, and you want some measurable, specific request. So I fear this project may not go well. And what I want to do is figure out with you how we can make sure the project not just does what the client asked, but we deliver above and beyond. I could say it a little differently. I could say, I feel excited. We've got this great opportunity on this project, and I think not only can we deliver what was asked, but we can go above and beyond and make it really something that they're exceptionally pleased with. And so what I want to do today is figure out, my request is you and I figure out how to make sure that's going to occur. So instead of having it done on May 31st, how can we get it done April 30th? Instead of having this, how do we have this? So I can do it in a fear way or exciting way. There's a lot of different emotions I can use. Sometimes I use both emotions. I'm really excited about this project we're doing, but man, I'm also scared to death, because if it goes wrong, it could not just ruin our relationship with them, it could also get around the industry that we don't necessarily bring home the bacon. So what I'd like us to do is figure out how can we bring this project in from this scheduled delivery date to here. How do we get it to achieve this instead of this? So I can play different ways with it depending upon who I'm talking to. If somebody's more sensitive and more fearful naturally, I want to go to a very positive emotion, typically counterbalance them a bit. If I've got someone that naturally is real positive, but because of that doesn't necessarily see the negatives, I might lead with the fear. Most things I do for a living, personally and in business, I'm scared and I'm excited. So, sometimes that's a better way to frame it. The third thing is, and this is partly what you're trying to do, is not take on the whole burden. We find a lot of younger, less experienced leaders take a lot of burden on themselves. What can I do? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So when we say, what can I do to help? The actual verbiage we use is, hey, here's how I feel, here's the request. What I want to ask you, what do you need from me, or what do I need to do to give you the resources so you can make what I just requested happen? We get this project done April 30th and get it to perform at this level. What do you need from me for you to make that happen? So you do want to get the burden on them typically. And I'm assuming you're a leader that they've got some experience, they kind of know what to do, or maybe you're pairing them up with people that have experience. Or you've coached them enough that now they should be able to start running with it. That's what you want to do, is get the burden on them, not just be someone that keeps taking the reins. If you're someone that keeps taking the reins, you may be absolutely ruining your own productivity. I had a conversation about this specific model with someone earlier this morning, and they were in full agreement that, man, I'm a great leader here, but I start volunteering to do all this, and then I'm not getting my other shit done. And so I think this inquiry is important, but you want them to think through it. You want them to tell you. And then as you have that conversation and figure out what resources they have, what they need, you might tighten up the schedule, figure out different way of doing it. Okay, here's what I promise to do. You've said you need this from me. I'll promise this from you. And you could say what they've promised to do. My preference is to say, okay, so I'll do that, but then what are you going to deliver to me in return? Blah, 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 blah. And then sometimes I'll even add in, how often are you going to check in with me? If it's someone I'm really nervous about, or if it's a really critical project, I'll put them on what I call the call a day program. They're calling me or emailing me daily, or I'm them, and I just want to get an update where we're at. And I don't want someone to feel like I don't have confidence in them, but if it's a really critical thing and we've had problems before, I want the call a day program. A lot of stuff is kind of on a weekly thing. I just want a weekly email, hey, just update me all the stuff you're working on. And it's quick, easy for both. If it's a really long-term project, I might be asking about it once a month or having them report to me once a month what's happening or what's going on. So this model I like a lot, but it's one of many. Susan Scott wrote a book, I think, called Tough Conversations. There's another one called, I think it's Mary Lee Adams, Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. This is one that I happen to see in the bookshelf. Powerful Conversations by Phil Harkins. There's a lot of great books on conflict resolution. Part of our goal as an organization is to get leaders, teams, companies, cultures interacting with each other in a way that there really is no conflict. It's really about debate, finding a better way. It's about making sure we have great relationships. And yeah, great relationships need to get some repairs sometimes. So to me, the attitude of how we view it's important. I was actually doing this with a guy a year or so ago with a team of 30 people. And he said, you know what? We call it at our church intense fellowship. So that was a great way to put a positive approach to conflict, letting people know, hey, it's normal to have conflict. We're humans, but then let's do a really great job. Let's become great at having these debates, having these conversations. And if one of us gets too far, let's apologize, let's get straight. And so I think the attitude or the culture's view of what conflict is very, very important. I also think it's important to have this in place to get rid of barriers as organizations are getting flatter, as organizations grow and perhaps have more locations or more job sites. It's harder to have good communication, so there's more tendency for there to be conflict. So especially in those situations, it's important the whole organization really take this in and learn how to effectively have intense fellowship or great conflict. One of the homeworks on this, we've got some scenarios. We recommend you get your team and sit down with the scenarios and have them role play it. Put two people up front, have them role play it, then they debrief themselves, and then have the team give feedback on how it went. And I think it's real important to do. You can do it with the fake scenarios. For our very advanced teams, we'll take real conflict, serious conflict, and put the two of them up in front of the room. And there's certain ground rules, and we'll talk about that in another module. But for the really super serious, real stuff, that's kind of one of our coming attractions with you. So use the scenarios we gave you, or do some lower level real stuff. And then our coach will be calling you in 2 weeks and just asking how those went. And your job is to get yourself and your team where these approaches become habit and just natural to what you're doing. Thank you.